My name is Josh Eckberg. I'm the supervising sound editor on With Great Power.
How is sound important to the story?
Sound is extremely important to the story, though often sound is not brought to the attention of the audience. Usually when something's wrong with sound, that's when people notice sound. But if the sound person's doing their job, for the most part, they will just believe that that was the sound that they recorded while they were on set, and nothing special had to be done. That's often the best kind of sound design. Obviously, with certain movies where we're designing something that doesn't exist in the real world, then you can have a little more opportunities to shine and create something unique that the audience will remember. There's been a lot talked about the sound design for all the Star Wars films, and I mean, if you talk about iconic sounds, that's definitely one of the movies you think of, the lightsaber sound or the sound of the X-Wings or the TIE fighters, that kind of thing. They're, things that stick with you for a long time. Another one would be like Jurassic Park, with the sound of the T-Rex coming up. There's the visual element, but you still would get it even if there were no visuals. I was watching a Blu-ray yesterday, and they were promoting the Dirty Harry pack of movies, and they just showed Dirty Harry shooting his gun over and over and over again, and it was the same exact gun sound every time.
Smith and Wesson and me.
Or if you watch a fight scene and it's the same exact punch sound every time, that's the audience starts picking up on that, and it takes them out of the story, which you don't want.
What are the 5 stems you have to build?
Music. These are music tracks. They're split out based on instrument. Down here we have dialogue. You can see some the dialogue coming in. We have Nicolas Cage here coming up, and Seth Rogen, and some of their clips. Below we have sound effects. A little further down we have Foley. This is where we put in like footsteps or cloth noise, or when somebody grabs a prop in a movie. And then finally backgrounds.
Does Blu-ray affect how you design sound?
With Blu-ray coming in, it's really been kind of a luxury for the filmmaker and the mixers, because what you've actually done can be put on the disc, and it doesn't have to be changed or compressed or anything, especially on Blu-ray. It's basically just the way we mixed it is the way you're going to hear it, and that's never happened before.
What is the biggest challenge you face as a sound designer?
I've had a lot of films come in where the production sound is completely unusable. They have to be totally rebuilt. We have to revoice every line of every actor, and it's a painstaking process, but it has to be done.
Do you think of sound design while watching movies?
If it's a good film, for the most part, I can kind of forget about how much work it is to do sound for a film. I try not to think about it. There are certain movies, though, where I'll literally get stressed out from watching it because I know how much work went into it and how daunting it would be. Like when I watched Transformers 3, I literally got stressed out. My stomach started getting sick because I knew some of the guys who'd worked on it, and they called it tours of duty. They would go in and work for a month straight and then be off the project for a while, and they kept churning people in and out and in and out. And I just watching it and knowing how many man hours went into it, it actually stressed me out watching that movie.
How is documentary different than narrative?
Definitely the mix is different with a documentary versus a narrative film, because the sound effects are a lot of times played underneath while someone's talking. So you don't want to feature the sound effects as much. For instance, on the Stan Lee documentary, when we were talking about World War II, we were showing all kinds of crazy footage of tanks and explosions and whatnot, but when it came time to mix it, somebody's talking over it, so you have to put it underneath.
America went to war, and the superheroes went to war along with them.
I think there's a whole nother level to sound design besides just those basic things where we're trying to make the audience feel something. And a lot of that's done with backgrounds or sound design-y type elements. If you've ever been to a movie and your hair is standing up or something, or you just have an uncomfortable feeling even though nothing's necessarily happening, a lot of times it can be because of some unnerving sounds you put in the sound design.
Should sound remain ultimately undetectable?
I think you want sound to kind of fill out the space and make people feel like they're a part of the movie and they're in those locations. And in that way, you don't want it to be detectable. You just want them to feel that. But obviously, there are other things that are important story-wise that you do want the audience to notice. You don't, if you're working on a horror movie and somebody's chopping down a door with an axe, the sound will be detectable, and you want it to be detectable.
Over the course of your career, what has changed in the post-sound industry?
Post-sound is definitely in a state of flux as far as the mixing goes. The control surfaces are definitely changing and have been changing. So the console behind me right here is basically just a giant mouse. It controls the software for Pro Tools. Other advances in sound that are coming out, we've got the 3D visuals happening now. We've always had surround sound, but they're refining what surround sound is, and people have been experimenting with what they're calling 3D sound, where it's basically like surround sound, but it is more precise. And I'm not sure how it's going to be applied to movies and whatnot, but you could be sitting in a theater and basically it pinpoints, like if you had an orchestra, you would know exactly where the violin was in that room. It's not just coming from that direction, it's there. And what's even crazier is it's there whether you're sitting where I am and it's there if you're on the opposite side.
What do you have left to accomplish as a sound designer?
I feel like I've accomplished everything I need to in the world of sound now that I've worked on the Stanley documentary. I've kind of reached the pinnacle. I've worked with the people I've wanted to work with.
I don't know if you'll get any
And
higher.
I really don't know if it can get any better or if I can work with a classier bunch of people.